The sport of off-road racing is full of incredible stories, wild characters, legends, and even villains. We cover it all on offroadracer.com, but there's only so much we can put down in an article. Sometimes we have to dig a little deeper, and that means sitting down with some of our industry's most influential characters and hitting record. Welcome to the Off-Road Racer podcast, a Mad Media production, made exclusively for offroadracer.com. Each month, we'll go beyond the dirt into the homes, shops, and lives of the most interesting and game-changing icons of our sport. You'll hear about their history, success, failure, and everything in between as we pull back the curtain and reveal the stories of their lives. I'm your host, Matt Martelli, and this is the Off-Road Racer podcast. I'm Matt Martelli. This is the Off-Road Racer podcast, and I'm here with the chairman of the board, Mark McMillin. What's up, Mark? How are we doing?
How you doing, Matt? I'm doing well. Yeah.
I'm good, man. It's good to see you. We were just talking about vacations, and you've been doing a lot of traveling.
Yep. Well, life is good, and just turned 68 a couple of Fridays ago, so try to mix as much play in with work as I can. Try to work as little as I can.
Yeah.
And I'm tossing that to my boys, Daniel and Luke. So.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. I mean, we've known each other for a long time, and I know, the history of the Big Blue M of the entire McMillan family because of our long relationship. But, a lot of people don't know, your history. How old were you or, how'd you get started in off-road racing?
Well, my dad was Corky, and I'm the oldest of the two brothers, Mark and Scott, and my dad and I started dune buggying in the middle 60s. Right. I was like 11 or 12 years old. And then when I was like in 1971, we went down and watched a Baja 500 and a Baja 1000.
Yeah.
And a Baja bug that we built, and Scott went with us. And then we had a friend that raced the Baja 1000 in 1975. So the same guy, ironically, that got us into dune buggying in the 60s, got us into built a Baja bug and went down and watched Parnelli Jones run in 73, 74. Well, no 74, there was no race, but 71, 72, 73. And then they raced in 75. Leonard Greaser did. And then we went down and helped him because it was all of our dune buggy group that went down and pitted for him. He didn't finish. And then my dad literally borrowed that car the summer of 1976. Borrowed the car and said, let's go race the Baja 1000 once just to say we did it. So here we are 45 years later.
That's pretty cool.
But we raced. We didn't finish either, but a lot of things to learn from that. And we started racing in 76, and my boys and Scott's son is still racing today.
Yeah.
24.
No, it's cool to see the generations, and I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions about that, but going back to that era, it started out as a group of friends. You guys were ripping around Gordon's Well and Plaster City, that area, yeah.
Yeah, well, my dad owned Gordon's Well. He bought the Gordon's Well. Originally it was a stagecoach stop, and then it was a gas station. And when cars needed gas and worked on every 100 miles, and then it became an RV park, and my dad expanded that, and we spent a lot of time down there as kids. Just sold that about 4 years ago, but we started down the desert, and then we started going to Baja recreationally, and then rolled into off-road racing with Score.
That's rad. But do you remember what your earliest memory was as a kid of off-roading?
Watching Parnelli Jones in the 72 or 1973 Baja 1000 in the Ole Bronco down by Camelou, and I could still drive you to that hill where everybody came across the flats, negotiated the hill, and set it up and went up the hill. And he came, and I'm sure Strop was with him, just never let up.
Yeah.
Drifted all the way up the hill and over the horizon.
Isn't it crazy how one moment like that can then shape your life?
Yeah, it was fun. I remember watching them race and thinking, geez, I never thought we'd do it. But we're doing it, and I think my sons are drifting equally as fast over those rises.
I think they're going a lot faster.
They are.
The equipment's gotten better. The drivers have gotten better. Everything's faster now. It's crazy. So then, you started racing with your dad, and, how long was it before, you guys were finishing races and finding success?
Surprisingly, relatively quick. We didn't finish our first race, but that was in 76. And then we started finishing pretty well in 78 and 79. I won my first Baja 1000 overall in 81, which was year 5, it's amazing.
Right.
And then I won 5 out of 8 of those overalls from 81 through 88. And it hasn't been downhill since, but for me, that was 30 years old, and that's where you peak,
Yeah.
I think.
And so at that era, had you gone to work in the family business because you were done with college, right?
Yep. Got out of college in 79. Went to work in the family business. But back to that, I can't give credit to just the driver from 81 through 88. My dad made sure we had good equipment, even though it was all Volkswagen based.
Yeah.
We had a Volkswagen motor, and then we upgraded to the Porsches.
Yep.
And he made sure we pre-ran a lot, and that was the key to winning then. Because we pre-run 4 and 5, 6 times when people back in those days were pre-running 1 time.
Yeah, the whole preparation thing.
Yeah, there was no GPS. There was no radios that worked worth a shit.
Yeah, what is the saying? Because I remember it from Scott. It was like plan, prepare, execute.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
He did that in personal life, business, and racing.
Yeah. It was really interesting, like when we first met, how organized you guys were, right? Like I'd been around a lot of teams and they were having fun. It was very loose, and nobody knew where Fred was at and when he was coming through. And I remember, what was the lady that worked for you guys that did the timing sheets and the travel?
Back then it was Pam, I think.
Yes, it was Pam, right?
But even before that, and today it's Karen Sanchez, who's worked for me for 37 years.
Yeah.
But Luke does all that. Luke and Dan work together on the pit plans, but Luke does 90% of the lifting on that.
But I remember even on pre-runs, we'd go on pre-runs, and it was like, here's what the day's going to consist of, right? Here's what we're out to accomplish. And then I switch and go to another team, and I'm like, so what are we doing today, guys? And like, I don't know.
No, my dad always had a plan.
Yeah.
And he always had a backup. We always had extra vehicles. We were fortunate enough, even if we just brought a dune buggy with rock tires. He said, your most precious commodity, guys, is your time. You get down there and you got one pre-run and it breaks and you got to go home, even though we're close compared to most people living in San Diego.
Right. Still a day.
Yeah, still a day. But
Yeah.
We always had a plan.
It's interesting to see how, like starting with your dad, how you guys applied these really like not just business principles, but like life principles to even, racing and playing.
Yeah, that's true. You got to work hard and play hard, and you got to plan to win, whether if it's in business, racing, or at home when you're raising children.
And there was a point where, you guys you'd hit the kind of ceiling with technology, and, you had decided, well, we can't get transmissions to live. We're going to make our own. What was that like?
Well, it was expensive. My dad decided to take a transaxle and a transmission and marry him, and he worked really hard with Tony from Rancho.
Yep.
And then another guy, Ray Brock, who worked with my dad on built a lot of our motors, but was watching my dad's interest in that. They built a couple of dozen of those. They never had my dad lived another 10 years. I think that transmission would be what the Masons are trying to do with the Mason-Matic.
Well,
but he didn't have enough time.
But it was the precursor to that. That's an interesting story too, because like Tony and what's the other guy's name who went over there? David, that's right. Went over from RDE to to help Mason with their transmission.
Yeah. So it's going to work. We're sticking with. Can't even think what we have. They're out of Indianapolis, but they're good transmissions.
Yeah. Well, what's funny is maybe they should call that transmission the Corky.
Well, why not?
Yeah.
I still have one of those. It's in my dad's car. It's
Right.
It's at my house in my back garage, which I have a little museum, and it's there. That car hasn't been started since about 07.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks I need to fix it up and race it in the NORRA race. I said no. The minute I started, I'm going to have oil here, oil there. I put $50,000 or $60,000 in it just to race it once. But
yeah. Yeah, I mean, the history of it though is really cool. How, these vehicles went from really basic air cooled VW engines to then Porsche engines. Then the engine was too powerful for the transmission, and so on and so forth. And then after that, you guys moved up to Class 1.
Yep.
What was that era like? I mean, that was a pretty big equipment change.
But we started in Class 9, and then we went to Class 2, which was basically the 2-seat unlimited.
Right.
And then now we're in trophy trucks. I raced a trophy truck, I think, in 2012.
Yeah.
And the vehicles today are just night and day compared to what I had in the 80s. But it's fun. The all-wheel drive, the Masons are unbelievable.
Back to the kind of early days. Do you think that relationship between you and your dad was made stronger through off-road racing?
Oh yeah, he jokingly said, but he was serious about it. He goes, "The money we're spending here and the time we're spending together is good family glue," and never forced us to go racing. Never forced us to stay racing. Just like I never forced my sons, and I think Scott never forced Andy or Jessica to race. But it was there. They had a good stage. We had good equipment.
Yeah.
And they were good at it. They are good at it.
Yeah. It's interesting, a lot of stories about Corky, and one I remember in particular, one of my experiences was when I was first getting to know you guys. I think we were on a pre-run. We were going down for the race, and it was like, hey, meet us here. And, it was an address, and I looked at it, and I'm like, oh, there's a hotel here, right? That's the hotel. So I go to the front of the hotel, and I'm like, where's everybody at? And then
You were probably camping across the street.
yeah, you had a camp, that was part trailer park and part campsite in the middle of Ensenada, with the fence around it. And there was a shower in the center of it. And I'm like, all right, these guys are, they're doing it, right? They've got all these people, this whole team. And, obviously you already had a legacy at that point. But I'll never forget the morning I got up to, take a shower, and there's a guy standing in front of me, and I realize it's your dad. And I'm like, why is he standing here with everybody else?
Yep.
And it was like, he didn't want to be any different.
No, my dad was a real guy.
Yeah.
And he loved camping. And we camped out in Valle Trinidad. We camped in Ojos Negros. We camped at Jamul. Anytime we're racing over the summit, we'd camp at Jamul and just get up early and go over the summit. We could probably do it twice that day.
Yeah.
And we had trailers that had little showers in them and 4 bunks. But Scott and I have upgraded to the Coral. The Coral Hotel and Marina.
Yeah.
Very nice.
A little different now.
Yeah. And then a hotel in Valle Trinidad we stay at all the time.
Yeah. Well, the era that you'd started winning, I mean, what was that like? I mean, first off, winning the Baja 1000 in that era, I mean, that was a big deal.
Yeah, it was a big deal. It was huge because back when I was racing, Mickey Thompson was still there. Parnelli was there.
Yeah.
Larry
Walker.
Reagan, Walker Evans.
Yeah.
And one of the races where it was a 2-day race in '83, I think, or '84, we had a 2-day race where we stopped in San Felipe, and the next morning, I beat everybody to San Felipe by 20 minutes, but the next morning they packed us all up 30 seconds apart, and I will never forget it was me, Walker, Parnelli, all the who's who. And I thought, and then Walker ended up getting by me on the way to the finish line. And my dad said, let him go, you got 20 minutes on him. And we got to Ensenada and finished out there by the junkyard somewhere.
Yeah.
And there's Walker's truck and, 10,000 locals around him. And I'm back here in a buggy and go, I won. But, no, a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was an interesting era because the trucks hadn't quite transferred into, they were still Class 8s, and they were, restricted wheel travel, and they weren't quite trophy trucks in that era. So buggies were dominating.
Buggies had more travel and we had more, they were lighter.
Yeah.
But the trucks, I don't know, they restricted the trend. I don't know.
No, they didn't restrict them. I just mean that from the design side of it, didn't have the travel that we have.
But Baja
today.
was a lot smoother then too.
Yeah.
Baja was a lot smoother. The washes were smoother. The roads were smoother. Now it's all we got all these 40-inch tires tearing it up, and there's just too many races on the same tracks. But give us a track, we'll go racing.
Yeah, it's rough. I mean, it's changed completely. I mean, just even the last 20 years, it's changed completely. Winning, you've won, everything. You've won everything in Baja. You won everything in the States. Was there a win that you felt like it was your biggest win? That meant the most to you?
The first Baja 1000, and I won the Mint 400 one year.
Yeah, in 88.
88. And I think that same 88, I think I won the 500, the Mint, and the 1000. But, winning the Mint was fun because we tried that for a long time, and we didn't have our cars were too heavy.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were bringing cars out there in the early Mints, like they were bringing them from Riverside, more of a lighter car. But
right. Well, then what was it? I think it was, looking at my notes here, then 32 years later, Luke wins it in 2020. All right, what was that like for you? You know,
awesome. I just love to see my boys succeed. Daniel won the 500 here. The big win for Dan was the Baja 500 about 4 years ago.
Yes.
And then since then, I think Luke's won 3 Baja 1000s in a row.
Which is crazy.
Almost got 4 in a row.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I got 5 out of 8. He goes, well, that's when it was easy. And I said, easy. He goes, well, not easy, just different.
Yes.
I said, whatever.
Well, I mean, what's that like for you? I mean, you were saying, too, like, you're not, like, forcing things on your kids.
Nope.
But you hope, like, hey, I hope, he's into this, the same things I am, especially because you're such a passionate person about off-road culture. What was that like, for you to kind of realize, like, okay, Luke and Dan, they like doing this, and oh, by the way, they're really good at it.
Yeah, that was rewarding. They went pre-running with me from the time they were 3 and 4 years old.
Yeah.
And then I stuck Daniel in a car when he was 16, I think, class 16 car, and then Luke, I think, started chasing me. I bought him a 1600 race car for a pre-runner when he was 13, and he'd follow me all the way to La Paz. And my pre-run truck, I got a rear view mirror, and I can't get that little kid out of it. So he'd follow me all the way to La Paz.
I mean, this isn't easy. You gotta put in time. You're gonna go through lots of diversity and lots of challenges. Do you think that's character building for the rest of their lives?
Absolutely, yeah. That's a good analogy.
Yeah,
teaches them how to tolerate when things don't go so well.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
It's not every day is the perfect day out there for anybody.
Well, it's interesting to watch, especially, both of them, but especially Luke, because Luke has become so good at it, but also like obsessed with it, right? Like I was hanging out with him at the shop, and he was opening up drawers and going, yeah, these are the parts that failed in a race 6 years ago, and here's why they failed, so that we can come back and look at this and understand why we lost.
No, they're looking at. No, he's really into it.
Yeah,
he's got a good team there with people, and I'm not going to start naming those guys, but Max and Roger Lopez are running my shop, and they're looking at, if we got a set of bearings that went bad, what lot were they,
Sure.
And then we'll take metal and get it tested, and so we pretty much know if something's going to fail almost before the manufacturer does.
Right.
So we'll run a hardness test or whatever it might be. So yeah, they're into it. You have to be. You're spending this much money to race 4 races a year, and I'd like to do 5 or 6, but I just can't. I can't justify more money and more time out of my life and out of their lives now that they got families.
Sure.
Because the races we used to go down for 2 4-day weekends, and then we'd go to the races on Wednesday or Thursday. Now, the promoters want us at the races on Tuesday, and it gets tough. It gets tough.
Well, in pre-running, I mean, now, especially the level of competition, has gotten to the point where everybody has good equipment now, especially with the Mason platform. And so you got to look at, where are you going to win, right? Are you going to win by taking a bunch of risks, right? That's not a really good plan. But doing your homework becomes even more critical.
Pre-running.
Pre-running.
And when we're down there pre-running now, there's always 2 or 3 helicopters.
Yeah.
That's the newest thing the last year and a half.
Yeah.
We don't bring one pre-running. We'll bring one down for a race for safety first and foremost.
Yeah.
And maybe Luke will run out or Dan will run out and look at something after qualifying on Thursday. But
well, it's a good thing you do because you've helped save a lot of people with your helicopter.
As other people have too.
Absolutely.
Steve Menzies has stepped up a lot.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. For you now, what is your favorite part about this? I mean, you've been doing this for so long that there's not a lot of it that's necessarily new to you, but what keeps you engaged and keeps you motivated in doing this?
Watching the boys, including my nephew, Andy, be successful at it, and continuing to have the respect from the other teams and the promoters that we're good for the sport, and we try to help other people in the sport, but we want to go out there and we want to win. We want to win for the McMillan team, and we want to win for our sponsors, and we got some good sponsors that are good to us. We got Monster this year. We, of course, got BF Goodrich ever since I won their first Baja 1000 for them in 1986, and Method Wheels and others. So.
Attention Off-Road Nation. The Unlimited Off-Road Racing Championship comes roaring through Parker, Vegas, and Barstow in 2024. It's 3 of the most prestigious and competitive off-road races in the sport. It all starts with the return of the Parker 400 in beautiful Arizona, January 10th through the 14th. Then it's the biggest, baddest, most grueling off-road race on the planet. The BF Goodrich Tires Mint 400 comes roaring back into Sin City, Las Vegas, March 6th through the 10th. And finally, the climactic conclusion of the Unlimited Off-Road Racing Championship, the California 300, returns to Barstow, October 2nd through the 6th. Visit UnlimitedOffRoadRacing.com for complete details. The 2024 Unlimited Off-Road Racing Championship is here.
In the world today, I mean, how important do you think this is? I mean, to show people, like, one, it can be done consistently. 2, you could do it with your family, right?
Yeah. It's a big deal, but it's a big deal in a small world.
Sure.
It really is. Our little world of off-road racing is not that big. You could go talk to somebody in Wall Street that's really successful, but they said, Baja 1000, what the... Every now and then they'll know about it, but it's a big deal among your peers and your family and your friends to be good at what you're at, whether if it's... Well, today it's pickleball.
Right.
The hell with that.
Yeah.
Right now.
Well,
as you pickleballer?
As I always say, I'm only interested in sports that require 2 balls, right? Off-road racing, MMA.
There you go.
Not pickleball. In 2015, Rod Hall kind of convinced you to get involved with the Off-Road Motorsports Hall of Fame.
He did.
You didn't really need another thing to do at that point. What compelled you to do that?
I believed in what they were doing. Rod Hall was beginning to sunset his life, and I'll never forget, he called me up and he goes, "Hey, Mark," and I was aware of what the Off-Road Motorsports Hall of Fame was because my father was inducted.
Right.
And Rod Hall calls me up. He goes, "Hey, Mark," and Rod, he's short.
Yeah.
I need you to you want to be the chairman of the Off-Road Motorsports Hall of Fame. I said, "Well, Rod, time out. Let's take 2 steps back." I said, "I'd love to get involved with it. Put me on the board."
Right.
And I'll see what we have to work with because I want to succeed at what I'm doing. And he shortly got sick, and I made Frank D'Angelo promise. He was part of the ask, too. I said, "Frank, you stick with it. I'll chair it." And I enjoy it. So the Off-Road Motorsports Hall of Fame, and I would encourage anybody to go to our website to see what we are, offroadmotorsportshalloffame.org. So it's we're doing good things. We're inducting 12 new people this year on November 3rd, and that'll bring it up to about 120 inductees. It started in 1978,
Right.
when Ed Perlman inducted the first, I think, 12 or 15 people.
Right.
He inducted some more people a few years later. And then the whole thing sat in a cardboard box. And Rod Hall picked it up and did some good things with it. And then now with the team of people, a good board of directors, with the help of Barbara Rainey and Jennifer Hellstrom, we're having some great events once a year. And this year, again, it'll be back at the South Point. We're inducting 12 new people. And people always ask me, well, how do I get my dad or somebody in the Hall of Fame? It's pretty simple. You got to nominate them. Everybody learns about, and then about July or August when we start saying we're going to have an event, I get that question a lot. I said, well, March or April is nomination month. There's a nice, easy packet, and then we put it in front of a board of like 22 people. It's not just all the Off-Road Motorsports Hall of Fame board. We bring a lot of different people from different facets of the off-road world, and not just off-road racing, journalism, media, advocacy, and stuff like that. So I enjoy it.
Well, I mean, obviously I do too, but you've grown it quite a bit. Not just you, but the team you've put together. Yeah. Now it's become something that's a must-have attend event.
I
right?
think so.
We had a year off from COVID, I think, and everybody freaked out. Went, what are we doing?
No, it's a great group of people.
Yeah,
you run into people that you haven't seen in a long time. A lot of the old legends are there.
Yeah.
But a lot of the new up-and-comers are there, too. We're getting, Ricky Brayback and Sarah, and because we have the Impact Awards, where we not only induct people into the Hall of Fame as an inductee, but then we have the Impact Awards that recognize people in advocacy, people in media, people in journalism, short course desert racing, stuff like that.
Yeah. No, it's really cool. I mean, the advocacy recognition to me is one of those things where, like, a lot of those people are doing stuff that nobody ever even says, hey, good job, right?
Exactly.
And they're fighting to keep our OHV lands open, places where we recreate, places where we race. So that's one for me that I look at and I'm like, yeah, anybody who's out there doing that deserves some sort of recognition. And a lot of the OG guys, like I feel real fortunate growing up in this culture and, being able to meet and become friends with like a lot of people who, I deemed as legends, right? And it just keeps them involved, and lets them know like, hey, you know what? You may not be racing anymore, Ivan Stewart, but we still want to hang out with you.
Yeah, no.
You know what I mean? Or Rod Hall when he was around, or all the guys who really were the originators of this culture.
Yeah,
that's a cool thing to see.
It is fun to do, and we're planning. We don't have an exact date or exact what we're going to do yet, but we're going to do a spring event.
Oh, nice.
Either a poker run or something. Try to get everybody together so we can, one, get everybody together and recognize those that need to be recognized. And two, it's a fundraiser. We are not week to week, but we don't have a lot of money in the bank.
Sure.
And we're paying a couple of good people to help us, and they're not getting paid enough. But this is so if you think of us either sponsor something at the gala or just join.
Yeah.
So
that's a big one. I mean, to everybody out there who makes $1 off-road and off-road racing,
yep.
Put $1 back in,
I can't get Ford or Chevy or Toyota to step up.
Oh, we'll get them.
They have. I'm trying.
We'll get them.
Yeah, I'm trying.
Yeah, it's interesting though how, obviously I'm biased because I'm from the culture and I'm invested into this, but it's interesting to see the evolution, of what's happening with UTVs and now these kind of super trucks like the TRX and the Fox factory truck. Like, I definitely feel like there's going to be a lot more attention on off-road performance vehicles than there has in the past. I think we're going to,
I hope so,
convert a lot of the Porsche guys and the supercar guys, and they're going to look at this and go, man, that looks like a lot of fun.
Oh, the asphalt's fun though still.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But, those guys buy a vehicle like that and they live in LA, and unless you go to
they never get the tires dirty.
No, you have a 200-mile-an-hour car that you never do 100 in.
Yeah.
You know?
Or they buy the Raptors.
Yeah.
You know how many Raptor R's have probably never been in the dirt? People just have to have them.
I see them all the time. I've got friends that I have to show them what it does, and they're like, "Oh, I didn't know that."
Overlanding's gotten big.
Yes, which is cool.
It is cool.
The only thing that bothers me though is like they don't know that a lot of the technology that they're using came from racing, right? And so
It did.
They have to be schooled and reminded. And also the fact that in 1970s we were overlanding. It was just called sleeping in the back of the truck, right?
That's or wherever it got dark in a pre-runner.
Exactly.
I spent a lot of nights out there pre-running because we didn't know where we were.
Yeah.
And we had a tank with 12 gallons of gas and a dune buggy we had with rock tires.
Yeah.
We'd spend a night out there and get up in the morning, and then you could figure out a couple of landmarks where you were going.
Yeah. No GPS, no cell phones.
It's all good.
Yeah.
It's all part of the learning stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Matt, tell me about your Unlimited.
Well,
I called it Mad Media Racing, but you have 3 great events now.
Now we have the 4th. So we just got our 4th race greenlit by the BLM. So it's a 600-mile loop outside of Reno. So I'm really excited because it's more, that area reminds me more of Baja in that it's fast, it's technical. It's not really rough. Like it's not beat to hell like a lot of the other courses.
Like the Mint?
Like the Mint. So it's very fast. There are some gotchas, but I'm excited to share that with people. And, for us, it's like always a challenge to do races in America and give people the distance that they want to get out of it. And, we've been consistently doing lap races like, with Barstow, with the California 300, with the Mint. And of course with Parker. Parker's a great race. We're super stoked.
I love Parker.
Yeah, it's a fun one. It felt really good to get that back going under our belt and see all the people.
So does Best in the Desert still have Parker?
Nope, we have it.
There's only one Parker.
Yep, Parker 400.
That's good.
Yeah, so we're excited about it, and excited about the future. So.
That's good.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
Well, I'm anxious to see what happens in the future in the U.S. with all the promoters we have.
Yeah, it'll get sorted out.
It absolutely will.
Yeah.
It does. It's business.
That's right. It's business.
But right now, it's breaking up a lot of good racers.
Yeah, I think, though, like, to be fair, like, people also need to vote with their dollar, and they need to make a decision about what they want to see in the future. And, so if they choose to go race with a league, they need to think in those terms because we're not going anywhere. We're going to continue to grow, and we're also one of the only ones doing advocacy and going back and doing desert cleanups and making sure that we have financial impact in the areas that we go to. I mean, this is a business. Off-road racing creates hundreds of billions of dollars in revenue all over the planet, and it came from this funny little culture that started in El Cajon, California, that started in Baja and in Las Vegas, so we got to do a better job of being good business people. But
you were talking about giving back, and I think it's great what you guys are doing with the Mint cleanup and all that stuff. And that reminds me of Walt Lott used to he'd get a pre-run 2 weeks before the Frontier 500, and we stopped, I think, 2 or 3 stops in like Pahrump and Beatty and maybe one other place, and we gave money to the schools. The people would cook us dinner, a big barbecue at the city park.
Yeah,
and he did a lot of that.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting now to know the history and be operating now, and like we do things and people go, oh yeah, that's incredible. I'm like, yeah, that's a page out of Mickey Thompson's book, or it's a page out of Walt Lott's book, or Sal Fish. Like a lot of times, when I'm stumped on something, I call Sal up and go, hey, how'd you do this? I'm
going to lunch with Sal Fish on Wednesday.
Good. Give him my love and respect.
I will. He's a special person.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, he's great.
One thing on cleanup that I would like to see is get all the, including the Mexican promoters, they got to go back in Mexico and take their markings down.
Yep.
It's just, I mean, I hate to be an environmentalist because I'm
But
not.
we are. No, we are as off-roaders because the last thing you want to see.
There are just too many tags and old arrows down there.
Yeah.
And
agreed.
Yeah.
No, in the States, we absolutely have to take them down.
That or you're going to get billed.
There's no screwing around. Yeah, I agree. I mean, the last time I was in Baja and I was running course, I counted like 4 different leagues.
Promoters, yeah.
With stuff still up, you know. And but that's part of the culture in general, and I think that as future generations come on, like that, leaving it like you found it, as a tenement is an important thing to teach everybody.
Or leave it just a little bit cleaner.
Yes, absolutely. It doesn't hurt to pick up a few things that weren't yours.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. No, especially.
Where do you think Norra's going to go?
I think it's cool
with our new chief.
With Robbie?
Yeah.
Who knows? I mean, Robbie, he's ambitious, but I like the NORRA event. I think it's really cool. I want to see a place where the vintage cars can race. Yeah. And unfortunately, even though we have vintage classes, I would say Parker's a good vintage race. I think the coming Reno 600 is a good vintage race. But I don't know that I would tell people to bring vintage cars out to the mint course. It's rough.
Yep.
So I don't want to see those cars destroyed. I think that's one of the coolest things to me about vintage off-road race cars is that they're still racing, right?
Yep. They're getting overshadowed a little bit in NORRA.
Yeah, it seems
by the big pre-runners and trophy trucks.
Yeah.
And I wish, and I told Mike Perlman this a number of years. I said, this needs to be a rally.
Yeah.
And we have all the GPSs and the Stellas. Put the top end at 80. Nobody needs to, because 1, there's no pre-running. 2, there's no course markers. The locals down there, when you get down south of the Bay of LA, headed to Visciano, there's a lot of good farming roads with school buses coming and going.
Right.
And I just think the Baja 1000, they know we're coming.
Yeah.
We've been down there for 3 or 4 weeks. And I think the promoters even put road crossing signs.
Yeah.
But NORRA's just it's getting too fast.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think it's turning into something that it's not.
Yep.
Right.
That it wasn't meant to be.
Right. And I think that like one thing about that race in particular is, the fact that you have this very high level of camaraderie because everybody gets to stop and have a drink and have dinner with each other every night. So I think that's really cool.
You can stop now and have a taco while the speed vehicles change their belts.
Yeah, totally. But that's the thing about the NORRA. I think as long as it stays what it's supposed to be.
I like it.
I think it'll be cool.
Yep.
Yeah, you've done it a couple of times.
We've done it. I've done it all, but maybe 2 or 3.
Yeah.
So it's fun.
So what's your favorite part about the NORRA?
Happy hour.
Yeah.
Happy hour. Well, driving my old car, I drive the McAdoo, which is a 1970. When was that car built? 1979 Chenoweth 2-seater with a Porsche in it. And when I first showed up, they go, well, you can't be in this class. You can't be in that class. I said, I don't care. Put me in whatever class you want. Right. Well, you didn't have bypass shocks on it back in 81. I said, no, but they work a lot better, so I got them on it now.
Right.
So put me in whatever class you want.
Right.
So, but again, it doesn't need to be
period correct.
Just put me in a class.
Yeah, you're down there to have fun.
I like driving that because I drive places where I can reminisce the good old days, going through a canyon or something. But then also you get done at 3 or 4 o'clock, and you got great group of people.
Yeah,
great group of people. David Sykes and I can't even name them all, but the guys that go every year, and it is fun.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what it's about. I mean, it's funny because, like, I remember, a lot of the times I spent with you guys in Baja, like, it was hanging out with the people,
Yep.
It was, I still remember, like, every time I go to Ojos Negros and we go by the dirt turnoff road, I remember sitting in the truck with Ron Stacy, eating cheese sandwiches and like basically taking a nap for 2 hours until somebody came through. And then we're like, okay, let's go. It's just good times with good people.
No, we've had so many people helping us race, and Ron Stacy was one of them, and
Yep.
Tom Hoke, and it's all fun.
Yeah. I mean, what's that like for you now, watching, your sons develop that same type of, program and camaraderie with all their people?
With the guys at the shop, it's good. I mean, it's never perfect. It's a business.
Yeah.
It's a business. So you got to handle that like a business. But yet we'd like to have the right guys that make it fun, too. But as far as seeing the respect that they get out of the other racers, the sponsors,
Yeah.
and we're doing the right things, and the respect they give each other. Dan and Luke are just best buddies when they're down there. I just love to see that. It's like, well, when you get Dan, Luke, and Andy together,
Yeah.
and we're eating chips and salsa, and it's 7:30 at night, and it's been a pretty good day, they start giggling and laughing like it was Christmas when they were 7, 8, and 4 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, they just do. That's just perfect. That's that good family glue.
That's
what I spend that money for.
Off-road race fans, the third annual California 300 off-road race comes blasting back into Barstow this fall, Thursday, October 3rd through Sunday, October 6th. Don't miss your chance to see hundreds of the country's elite desert off-road racers go door to door on a brutal 300-mile desert race course and witness the exciting conclusion of the Unlimited Off-Road Racing Championship season. Visit thecalifornia300.com for more information and to purchase spectating, camping, parking, and VIP tickets. The California 300 returns.
Well, it's a cool thing to see because, having spent time with you and then your brother Scott, like, you see the relationship that you have with your sons, right? And especially when you're going through a certain period of your life, usually around your 20s as a male, you're not really hanging out with your parents. You know what I mean? You're trying to go figure out your own thing, and you're kind of like, okay, Dad, and to have that thing that brings you guys together that's common, that's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, well, it's been racing. It's been the dune buggies before that. We have houses at the river.
Right.
And Scott has a house real close, and we do a lot of recreating together. So
yeah,
it's fun.
What do you think, going forward, like, now your sons are beginning to have kids, right?
Oh, I got 3 great-grandkids, 3 grandkids.
Right.
That are great. And Daniel's having another one here in the next week, maybe 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
So he married a wonderful lady, Janae, had 2 little boys, Miles and Keegan. They've been in Dan's life for 3 or 4 years. And they're 6 and 5, maybe.
Yeah.
And then he's expecting another baby. And then Luke has Celine.
Yep.
She's 15 months. And they are fun. Will they be racing? I don't know.
We'll
Will
see.
racing be around then? I hope so.
Oh, yeah. Racing will be around.
In some form or fashion.
Yeah.
I worry about Mexico having us a lot longer.
Yeah.
But
yeah, there's definitely
at the scale we do today.
The development that's going on in Baja is it's intimidating, for the future. But I remember having the same conversation 20 years ago when there was a lot of Chinese investment going into that area, and then their economy crashed, and it was like lights out, right?
I think economically, giving us the permits for SCORE is economically good for them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting too, and this would be a good kind of question for you, is like, since you've been going down there from the 70s, what there's fishing, right? Then there's like general tourism, but general tourists are really only going to Cabo.
Yeah.
There's very few of them who are going to get from the 70s. They're not going to get in a truck or vehicle and run the peninsula.
No.
That was very uncommon. So then it's fishermen and off-roaders who really made that a destination.
That's true. Fishermen, and then, Ensenada always had the Newport to Ensenada sailboat races, a lot of bicycle races.
Yeah, let me tell you about that bicycle race. If you want to die,
Did you do that?
Yes.
Oh.
And I hit the biggest pothole I've ever seen in my life. I thought like I was gonna disappear into it, and had about 20 dudes crash on top of me.
That's like the big race in France, Tour de France.
Yeah, except
one
for
guy goes down, they all hit him.
That's what it was like.
Yeah.
Except for it was coming down the hill after the lookout point, right? And I went into a giant pothole, and I'm just like, okay, I'm screwed, right?
Were you on the toll road?
Yeah. And it was. You remember how bad that thing used to
yeah.
be? It was terrible.
It still is.
Yeah, but I mean, this had to be.
What are you doing on a bicycle?
Well, I was a teenager. I thought that was the cool thing.
I rode a bicycle through Europe for 6 weeks when I was 18.
Nice. That's rad.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been fun.
Doctors are still looking for the seat.
Yeah, I bet. Well,
6 weeks, 1,000 miles, 5 countries, with like 12 buddies.
That's cool.
Yeah, tons
that's
of fun.
Cool. Well, I didn't make it to Ensenada, so I did the.
You probably did in the ambulance.
They didn't. That was the thing that I learned really quickly is like there was no ambulance. It was the ambulance was the back of some dude's truck.
There you go.
And I was luckily I didn't break anything, but I was pretty scraped up. So a few Tecatis and I was fine.
That's good. So anyway, the economy down there, yeah, they got to get some more. The wine country's really helping northern Baja.
Yeah.
But as far as everything in the middle, what's happened down there with the cartels and all that, I think it's overglorified, but it's still an issue.
Yeah.
I think the spring breakers don't go anymore.
Yeah. Isn't that weird to see?
The spring breakers don't go to San Felipe anymore.
Yeah.
And the snowbirds don't go.
I remember, okay, so I was still in high school, so I had pretty much been 15 or 16, and they would recruit for trips to San Felipe. So the whole hook was they didn't say you could drink, but you all knew that you could drink.
Yeah,
so they're like, they would load you on a bus, you bought a ticket, right?
And you go to San Felipe?
You go to San Felipe for spring break when you're 15. It was the best thing in the planet.
No, I was going in college when I was 18, 19, but it was fun.
Yeah.
We went to Pete's camp.
Yep.
And Rafael Navarro reminds me today, he goes, your fraternity blew up my bathrooms. I said, I'm pretty sure it was the next weekend that was another fraternity.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're saying that a lot of spring breakers don't go to Baja anymore.
No.
Yeah.
No. So anyway, they need off-road racing.
Yes.
I just keep reminding them.
Yeah, it's interesting because one of the things that we've noticed with the Mint was that, Prim now is a destination, right? So when we started the Mint, there were 3 UTV operators, and they were ATVs, right? And so people would show up to Vegas and they would want to go ride an ATV, and they would go, take them for an ATV ride. Now there's 12 operators there, and on any given day,
Out at Prim?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Actually, Gene.
Yeah.
Gene looping around, so running our course and running the Gene Lake area.
What's going on with the Prim hotels? Are they open?
Yeah. Yep. Prim hotels are fully open. The new management, actually, this last year was really good. They've been, slowly improving the rooms, but they were great. This last year was our best year in terms of, working with them and ticket sales and, all that kind of stuff. So it was really cool. And then we're announcing it next week that we will be bringing short course back to the West Coast at the Mint. So
you're going to bring an existing series back there for 1 day or 2 days?
It'll probably be a standalone event,
Really?
but it'll be all the Midwest guys, open to everybody. But we have the track
On the
there.
weekend of the Mint?
Yep. So
Oh.
race ends. 2 hours later, short course racing
fours
starts.
go out, huh?
That's right. So yeah, I can look forward to that. I'm excited.
That'll be fun.
Because again, it goes back to like Mickey Thompson era. I mean, I think it was the weekend after I arrived in Southern California from Michigan, just moved here, and my cousin goes, "Do you want to go to Mickey Thompson?" I go, "What's that?" And
Stadiums?
Yep, that was at Jack Murphy.
You're not old enough to remember Riverside.
No, I was at Riverside too.
Really?
Yeah, that was later on. But yeah, and Riverside was the same way. It was just like really a holy shit moment as a kid because we spent 3-4 days there, and you're camping and you're sleep in the back of trucks and people are partying and there's all this racing going on. It was really cool.
Yeah, Riverside was fun.
Yeah. But
we raced it about 3 years, but we didn't have the right equipment.
Yeah, it was.
Now, there especially, we didn't have the right equipment.
Right.
Roger and Rick Mears were bringing their cars from Ascot, weighed maybe 900 pounds.
Right.
And I bring a Class 9 car from Baja that was, 1,800 pounds, or some overweight car with an overweight guy in it.
Right.
So,
what was your best memory from Riverside?
watching the cars that I was not in on Thompson's Ridge. Just phenomenal.
Yeah.
And that's when the PJ Blazers were driven by maybe Bob Gordon and Scoop. And I don't know what Mickey had. He had a different vehicle all the time. I don't know if he ran his big cars there or not, but just watching those cars on Thompson's Ridge, hanging over that fence, watching them come from your left to your right. So,
yeah, it's pretty crazy, like how much of an impact that particular race course had, and too, on the pavement side also, and that's one thing. Like we see a lot of the pavement raceways fading away, which is a bummer, right? But
it's the real estate underneath that people are after.
Yes.
I know that business too.
Well, but it's actually pretty cool because I've been to that area, and some of the streets are named after, the different race parts.
Oh, are they really?
Parts of the racetrack. So
Turn 6?
Yeah, there's a little history there.
Yeah. Turn 6 was the only one I think we got to go on.
Right.
So, right up by the grandstands.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's our goal with short courses, to reconnect it with desert racing, because it's part of the same culture,
Yep.
I mean, you and I have had some fun times in Crandon, so we know all about.
I love Crandon. I was going to maybe go this year, but I'm not going to. Dan's having a new baby, and I want to be around for God knows what I can do. Nothing. Maybe run and get a pizza.
Yeah.
But he's going to have a baby here September 1st, and then. But Ronnie Wilson and I are already talking about going next year.
Yeah. Well, we're definitely going to go out this year because we want to talk to a bunch of the racers. We went last year; it was pretty fun.
Oh, and get him out to your short course event.
Yeah. Yep. So we'll announce this week, and then we'll follow it up with some handshakes and some invitations and all that. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting to see the evolution of, short course racing starting in stadiums, it going dormant because of Mickey being killed, and then it evolving into soda and outdoors, right, in the Midwest, and then Baldwin's getting a hold of it and bringing it back to the West Coast, and having a little glory period, and then Lucas Oil, Lucas Oil, got to give them credit for what they've done, and but it was always weird to me that not so much with Core, because the Baldwins raced desert and short course, so they knew kind of the correlation between the culture, but Lucas Oil didn't. They pretended like desert racing didn't exist, and I thought that was a huge mistake.
I don't know. I don't even know if they're still around. I don't know. I don't follow short course at all. I think there's one series that's...
Yeah, there's a series in the Midwest that's been going pretty well.
Yeah.
But,
and Frank D'Angelo's been helping them a lot.
Yes. Yeah. Frank's been wizarding things.
He knows a lot of stuff.
Yeah. So that's cool. So, yeah, we want to reignite it here in the West Coast. And, we want all those people to also see, what we're doing with desert racing, because I think there's a lot of crossover. There's a lot of people that will look at that and go, maybe we should try this too.
I hope so.
Yeah.
And hopefully they got to get another vehicle.
That's true.
Yeah, my boys at some point in time wanted to go short course racing.
Yeah, I remember.
And I said, it's either that or this.
Yeah.
They look similar, but it's a completely different sport.
Yeah.
And we're not going to take these trucks out there and look funny.
No, and it's style too. It's like such a short sprint race.
It's aggressive.
Yeah. Whereas, what we do in desert racing is a marathon, and it's very, and this would be a good question for you and all your experience. I mean, talk about the mental part of it. Cause I don't think people understand that, being in a car for 6 hours, 8 hours, 12 hours, 18 hours, 20 hours, right?
1986 Baja 1000, I was 20 hours and never got out.
That's crazy.
Yep.
So describe what's going through your head through that time.
Just you want to get there, and you break it down into sections, and Everyone says you got to finish first and then win.
Yeah.
But that's stupid. But you just got to, I don't know, you got to be tough.
Yeah.
Can't get tired. If you think you're going to get tired, you don't even get in the car. It's mind over matter. Mind over matter, just like anything, business and life. But no, I enjoyed it.
Well,
And I could stay up now for 4 days straight if I had to. My wife would disagree. I love a nap now, but
I mean, what was that like when you found that thing that you were really good at? What did that feel like?
success. Yep. Success, and it's fun to be. I've never been a me guy. I was never, promoting markmcmillan.com, but to be looked at by my peers as one of the guys to beat almost every race. I was always going to be in that top 3 or 4 unless something drastically happened with our motors, and we went through some motors in the 90s, but that's racing. You just go through down periods. But, just got to be mentally tough.
It's interesting, too.
And
because
your whole team's got to be tough.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the thing that your dad would always say about never, ever, ever give up.
Yep.
Right. And that was permeated throughout the entire team. I remember, having these experiences with you, and both with Scott and with you, where it was like any normal person would have packed it in. But you guys were like, no, you know what? We're not going to win. We've lost the transmission or whatever the problem is. But you're like, we're going to get a finish.
Yep.
Right. And I remember like everybody at first kind of sighs and goes, oh shit. But then they got their sleeves back up and they got into it, and it feels good. You come away with accomplishing something that is extremely difficult, just getting the finish, right? And just the idea that you just don't give up. I mean, I think that's...
Well, back in like 78 or 79, I remember my car got stuck or broke down way up by Mike's Sky Ranch, and we got it out 6 or 8 hours later. I got it down to Valley Trinidad. And I said, well, we'll just drive it back down the pavement. My dad says, no, drive it down the course. I said, well, the checkpoints are closed. He goes, we've been pre-running for a week. Just drive it down the course. We're going to chase you like normal. Get some more time in. So I drove it down the course all the way through Nuevo Junction and into Ojos Negros, and then we got on the pavement.
Yeah. I was interviewing some of the Herbst boys, right? And they were talking about the idea that one of the reasons that they created the Land Shark was to beat you.
Oh.
Right? Was that you were winning so much that they were like, hey, we need something to beat Mark, right?
That was a great car.
Yeah.
Still is a great car. I think they just got done restoring it.
Yeah, I think so.
And it was a sad day to see that guy burn. But yeah, they, Mike Smith and along with Mr. Herbst,
Yeah.
they pulled a rabbit out of the hat with that one.
Yeah. It's interesting to see that how far they evolved, and hopefully, people understand that and give them credit for it. Technology with that vehicle, and then 4-wheel drive, right? And their 4-wheel drive platform ended up, being, not the stable platform that they were looking for. But, a decade later, here comes Mason and learn from what they had done. So I think
that's a great family.
Yeah.
Mr. Herbst and Ed, Tim, and Troy. And I'm really happy to see that Tim's boys and Riley shows up at the 1,000.
Yeah.
He's doing good at NASCAR. And but I'm happy to see Tim's boys are into it because
Ed's son is into it and doing well too.
EJ is too.
EJ's doing well too.
Because I know Mr. Herbst would want that.
Yeah, hence the glue, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
He would want that.
No, that's pretty cool.
Great family.
Yeah. No, it's awesome. I mean, what do you we talked about this a little bit before, but like, what do you have left to do, in this culture?
First and foremost, I want Daniel McMillan to win a Baja 1000 overall. And he'll get one.
Yep, he will.
He's got to, put a little more time in. And he's going to be missing the Baja 400 because he's got a new baby coming.
Right.
And he's got his priorities straight.
Yeah, absolutely.
But then he'll be back for the 1,000, and then we'll go into 2025 with a good team.
Yeah.
So thank you to Monster.
Definitely.
I got to thank Monster.
Yeah, they're great. I mean, they've done such a
They came after us.
Yeah.
Matt says, "Well, you're the first." No, it was 4 Wheel Parts before that.
Yeah.
Craig Scanlon
Yep.
says, "Mark, you're the first team I've ever called to say, can we help you?"
Yeah.
He goes, "I got all kinds of proposals in my in basket."
Yeah.
He did, and then Monster
Yeah. Chapman.
wanted to step up. Yeah,
Yeah.
Matt, right?
Yep.
Yeah, Matt Chapman. Good
Yeah.
people.
Yeah,
There's
no.
2 Matts we deal with. I don't
Yeah.
know. I know him, but
Yeah, Chapman's. I've known him since a long time, since Action Sports days. Him working with Etnies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, but it's cool. I mean, Monsters.
I've even had a few of the drinks. That's good. Actually, not bad.
No.
Add a little vodka.
Well, yeah. Have you had their new alcohol drink?
Beast.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, it's tricky.
Well, we have Beast on one of our trucks, and we have Monster on Dan's.
Yeah.
Beast on Luke's, Monster on Dan's.
Yeah.
And, of course, it cost me another round of shirts, but happy to have it.
That's all right. Wear them out anyways.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, cool. Well, thank
Okay.
you for doing this. I really
Well,
appreciate
Matt,
it.
thank you, and I wish you and your brother luck with your 4 race series.
Yep.
And I wish I could talk to all the guys. And I said, I wish I could race all the races.
Of course.
Just a matter of time and dime.
Definitely.
And I don't have enough of either. So, got enough dime.
Exactly.
Don't have enough time.
Yeah.
That's good.
All right.
So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right.